We'll begin in just a moment. We're just giving people just an extra moment to join us, and in just a moment we will begin. Thank you. Right now everyone's phone is unmuted. Is everyone hearing me okay? Just as a test.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Happy holidays to everyone.
Same to you.
Thanks. Same to you.
And just checking, this is Anna. Can everybody hear me too?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, I think that we're going to get started with our presentation. I'd like to formally welcome everyone to our presentation today. My name is Russ Romandini. I'm the Senior Systems Analyst at the Higher Education Assistance Group. We're a financial aid consulting group in Wellesley, Massachusetts, providing financial aid solutions, from analyzing your software systems to providing additional staffing help to you, and kind of everything else in between. So if you have any different types of financial aid needs, from automating your programming to helping staff any transitions that you have, or extra processing needs, we invite you to take a look at our website and to see how we might be able to assist you further. Today I'll be co-presenting with Anna Kelly, who is the Director of Financial Aid at New England Institute of Technology in Rhode Island. Anna brings a wealth of experience in financial aid, and a very long career with many schools in Boston and Rhode Island. So without further ado, I'd like to turn things over to Anna and would like to start the show.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Russ. I am Anna Kelly. As Russ said, I'm the Director of Financial Aid at New England Institute of Technology. And so our subject today is making the most of your financial aid system. And let's see if I can get this to go. See, this is a test. We're trying out this technology to make sure it works.
You should be okay now, Anna.
Okay. All right. The reason that we wanted to talk about this today is all of you folks who work in financial aid, like me, know that technology has really been part of our job description for quite some time. This paper process has become much more of a systems process, I think mostly driven by the Department of Education. I actually will be in the financial aid profession for 30 years come February, believe it or not. So I'm old. I can remember way back when Pell Grants were filled out. They were called BEOG grants back then, and you had to fill in little bubbles on the back of a paper and mail them in. FAFSAs used to be called FAFs, and I remember piles and piles of paper on our desk. So for over the past 30 years, obviously a lot of that has changed. And so, like it or not, part of the requirement of being a financial aid officer is to some degree knowing about technology, having to figure out systems and use them to your benefit. So what's needed to be successful to get something like that to happen? If you are the director and you're in charge of making things happen, one of the things you need to do is get support from your teammates. You may have somebody in your office who's good at technology, better than yourself. Use them to make the most of their skills and help out the whole office. I've certainly experienced that in my career, and you got to take advantage of that when you can. Support from your boss or bosses. Other people who work in a college may not necessarily know all of the details of what financial aid administration entails, and certainly may not know what kind of need you'll have for technology. So it's really up to you to explain and get your message across about what's needed and when it's needed. Knowledgeable sources, resources from whether it's reviewing your guides. Here at our school at New England Institute of Technology, we use Banner. So that is something that just reading the user guides, as technical as they are, to educate yourself and to understand that. Using your peers as a resource is a very good place to be. In Banner, we have a listserv called B-Finaid. I see that every day about what other schools are doing, especially as new requirements come down from the Department of Education. You can really learn a lot from your peers, and I found the financial aid community is very giving and supportive of their colleagues. So that's a good place to get a lot of help as well. And willingness to try and maybe fail a few times before you get it right. When you are trying to move to the next step, whether it's automating self-help online for your students or automating award letters, a myriad of communications to get in touch with your students, get them to do what they need to do and get your job done, you're going to have to be brave and try things out that you may be a little scary at first, but it's really worth it to not stay stagnant and make that attempt. Some of the challenges that you'll find. Oops, sorry. See, there's one right there. Hitting the wrong button. So one of the challenges would be just describing the new benefits to colleagues outside of the financial aid office. Like I say, our coworkers, our colleagues, like in the registrar, admissions, the business office, student accounts. When we want to go and automate something and present something online to students that is new, it can be kind of a scary thing, especially to a college that may have been around for a while, and you've got colleagues who feel like what they've been doing all this time has been working, not really embracing change that much. So it's up to you in the financial aid office to describe why you want to move to the next step and why it's going to benefit your school and your coworkers as well. Convincing the administration to spend money. Sometimes that may mean to get some outside help. I know in my case I got some help from consulting when I took this job, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Sometimes it might be to set up certain processes that might be new and cost some money. So that's something that you've got to really explain the value of why you're going to do that, why you're making that request. Managing time to conduct the work while you're maintaining daily office duties. Everybody's very busy. Financial aid, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot going on. There's really no downtime, in the 12 months a year. So how do you make that happen? How do you work on some kind of technological upgrade while you're trying to get everything else done that you do? And learning the technical stuff. I mean, that's certainly, for me, over the years, that's been a challenge. That's not something that I was initially very comfortable with, especially when you're moving from one system to another. They're very different, so you're kind of relearning a lot of detailed information. So that's your responsibility as a director to get involved and to really be able to answer those kinds of questions. So I wanted to relate one of the experiences that I've had recently in relating getting the most out of your systems process in a financial aid office. 2 years ago, I took this job as a financial aid director here at New England Institute of Technology here we're in East Greenwich, Rhode Island. And this was the very first time that I used Banner. I had never used Banner. I'd never even seen a Banner screen. I've used a lot of other systems, but not this one. Also, this was a different setup here for me. This is a 2+2 system. We've got a program where we're on 4 quarters a year. We do a associate's program, and then students can choose to go on for their bachelor's. And they are 10-week quarters 4 times a year. Another thing is as far as we've got a pretty big financial aid office, but not a very big IT office. So as far as being responsible for knowing what upgrades to do and any kind of changes in Banner, understanding the programs, really that was all on me as a director and my assistant directors. So there really was no IT office who's going to do the year roll or set up the SAP process when the rules changed. So that's something that I had to take on. New responsibilities for upgrading the software. While we do have some kind of support in writing reports and such, when it comes to the financial aid system, that's not something that anybody else in the college is really going to be able to drive that bus. Okay, trying to get the next slide to come up, and it is not cooperating. Let me see. Oh, okay. Okay, so the first steps that I had to do when I got here and took this job in September of 2010 was we really had to set up the following financial aid year in Banner. Like I say, this is all new to me. I had 2 assistant directors who had been here for several years, but these kind of processes weren't really their responsibilities. So needing to set up the annual roll process, really limited amount of time, big deadline on that. So I decided to bring in outside help that I was lucky enough to get some consulting help who are Banner experts to focus on that, come in for 3 or 4 full days, and side by side with the assistant directors and the consultant went through the process of the year-end roll. Really involved, especially 2 of my assistant directors who are knowledgeable in the day-to-day processes of the working of the office and the college. And we've also, from them, identified what kind of automation were we already using from Banner, which I found out was pretty minimal. In other words, we're really doing the bare bones in order just to get through the day, really weren't making the most of the system itself. So it was a good opportunity to really, in the year roll, as you're going through each of the setups and each of the screens, from loan periods to ICER downloads to identifying your tracking groups, etc., it was a good opportunity to go from soup to nuts and see what was it that we were doing now, what could we do better, and what was available to us as far as the system itself. So from that, after we came up with a wish list of some of the things we thought were feasible to make happen, really prioritizing some of the items that we thought were worthwhile, really had to get buy-in to what these new processes would be. and like I say, make the case for what value this is going to add. And looking at the pros and cons, we could set up certain systems, but would it be too much work for not enough benefit? Maybe this is all going to be new to our students as well, and so identifying what kind of reaction we would get from the students, how far would it take them, and just the teamwork too, to make sure that everybody was on board, that we thought that it was worthwhile to spend the time and the energy, and maybe putting other things aside to choose these particular projects to focus on. So putting the plan into action was really the next step. Establishing a timeline, figuring out what we're going to do when, being realistic, because, like I say, you've got a very busy calendar in financial aid. You have to figure out at what point you're going to have to focus on upgrading your systems versus drop what you're doing and take care of registration or awarding new students, etc. So establishing the timeline was really organizing our plan of action. Increased use of self-service function was one of the things we really wanted to focus on. We weren't using that for our students at all. And so opening that up, and we thought that was really one of the most valuable things for students and also for our staff, because the less we had to see students in person and deal with paper forms, the better. Automating the missing information letters was another item that we really wanted to get off the ground and access. And automating the satisfactory academic progress, that was something that was not really set up before. There was use of several spreadsheets and some access reports, but we really wanted to go whole hog with Banner and get that to really make our jobs easier. So we made a plan, and the plan was to set up the schedule and what things that we wanted to do, and in sequence. For one, obviously the first thing was to set up the 11-12 roll, keeping in mind the other things that we wanted to build on that afterwards. So February we worked on auto packaging with tracking for our students for the 11-12 awarding process. In March, we focused on auto packaging and self-service web accept of aid and loan periods. This was very new for us. And in May, focused on trying to automate our missing information letters. And then in August, focused on setting up our SAP process. So this is an ongoing effort. You can see that that's a pretty full calendar of just focusing on updating and making the most use of Banner between January and August. Staff training was continuous, so really had to be smart about what we were rolling out to our financial aid staff and when. We started off with a half-day training session to focus on what was new for the 11-12 year, which we do every year, but also to talk about what was coming in the future and really get a lot of buy-in. A lot of the financial aid officers here, we are very customer service oriented, see our students in person, a lot of reliance on paper, a lot of reliance on paper files. And so some of these movements into using the system was going to be a shift and going to be a change for them. So allowed plenty of time for question and discussion, the pros and cons. I certainly didn't know everything about the day-to-day process of the financial aid office here once I took the job, and so it was meaningful for me to hear from the financial aid officers what they thought would work, what they thought would not, what they thought might be an area that we needed to focus on before we rolled out. So that's really necessary to build the groundwork before you set something up and roll it out to your students so that everybody in the office is as familiar with the details as possible. So increasing the comfort level for the changes and their tasks and the stress, the benefits to the students. So when you're looking at moving on to a new system like this, one of the focuses that you have to have is that your staff needs to be ready for it. They need to be comfortable with it. They need to be able to answer questions for students who come in, or, if something's not working, maybe to address that as well. Okay. And that's really my part of the session. I'm going to turn it back over to Russ now. Russ, maybe we can unmute everybody and see if anybody has some questions or comments about some of the things that we just went over.
Yes, I would like to take a moment and open it up to questions. One moment, and I can unmute everyone. And if anybody has any questions right now, as we kind of hit a midpoint to the presentation, and see if anyone has any questions to ask.
Hi, Anna.
Yes. Hi.
This is Chris from Alfred State. How are you?
Great. How you doing, Chris?
Not too bad. I see one of the things that you guys implemented was the SAP process through Banner.
Yes. Mhm.
How difficult was that?
I didn't know this was all Banner. I didn't either.
Yeah. This is all part of Banner. I mean, it was. I would say it's very It was very complex, and part of the reason was that we had chosen to when some of the SAP changes came around in I think it was for 12-13. We're looking at students at least annually, okay, versus looking at everybody every quarter. And so I would say it was very complex. I'll be honest and say I used that was one of the things that we focused. I got most of the assistance from our consultant to help set it up. Really, the SAP process, the consultant and one of the assistant directors, I would say, spent a good 2 or 3 days just working on that, focusing on that. And as we kind of transitioned out of the former version into the new version of the way that we do SAP here at New England Tech, it was pretty complicated. But I will say this, it works fantastic now. We run SAP every quarter. We're just choosing populations based on the time that they started school in order to get through everybody who did indeed attend here at least once a quarter.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so the short answer is it was a lot of work, but it really paid off, and I'm really glad that it's working well now.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Anybody else with any questions or comments? Okay. Well, I think we'll go ahead and move on with Russ. I know we'll get an opportunity throughout the rest of the presentation for you guys to have questions. We'll certainly do questions and answers at the end as well. All right. So, Russ, I'll pass it back to you.
Okay. Thank you, Anna. I think, what Chris, you asked, and Anna, what you touched on, regarding programming certain items in the system. There'll be a lot of upfront work with a lot of back-end benefits, I think is an overarching theme with a lot of software systems. They have, a lot of power to really help not only automate the processes, obviously, but make your lives, easier down the road, where you have, once your process is automated and you have the ability to test it periodically, it runs right, and you're capturing everybody, and, it also streamlines your process, where you're able to do things like a SAP review, and to be able to complete that review in a timely manner, notify students in a timely manner, and give them the ability to respond back to you, in enough time to go ahead and take action and make that appeal, and then potentially have an appeal approved gain that extra chance, and go on to the next academic period where hopefully they move to regain that eligibility and and meet the SAP policy progress. So what we'll do now is we're going to talk about what are some of your system hotspots. When was the last time that you made a list of items that you'd like to automate or improve process? Where can you improve automation in your system or remove redundancy? And again, some of the benefits of automation where you can improve accuracy and awarding equity. If you're using an auto packager, you can increase staff and student satisfaction. Staff satisfaction certainly by lightening some workloads that you've done manually for a long time. Student satisfaction through timeliness and through equity. So where can I make some system improvements? These are some items that you may want to think about. Certainly the list would be longer than this, but you'd want to, maybe start with a list that looks like this and then build off of it. Who in your department or area or campus manages the system release updates? How do you handle ISER loads? How do you handle student applications, letter generation, conflicts, COD processing and reconciliation, budgeting and packaging, automated packaging, and return to Title IV? These will be some of the areas where we'll be discussing. Okay, so for software release updates, who manages the release updates on campus? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually unmute everybody for the majority of the rest of the presentation. So this way you'll have an opportunity to jump in and answer a lot of these questions, and then we can build some dialogue amongst ourselves. Would anybody like to jump in and let us know if it does not happen within your office, who handles your update release?
Our IT department.
That would be the case at ours as well.
When the IT department does it, how much involvement do you have? Do you have the work of the majority of the testing? Do you work, is it more of a 50-50 where you test the financial aid components and then make sure it runs right, or is that burden really off of the financial aid office?
In our office, it's a 50-50.
Okay. Okay. We're seeing some chat come in through as well where we've got some 50-50 as well. So that's great. It sounds like we have good relationships with other departments on campus that help move the release updates forward. How would you rate the level of system support on your campus? Do you think it's high, or for anybody maybe that didn't have a chance to say that it's 50-50, is anyone out there feeling like they have a very low level of system support on campus? That's good. How quickly are system upgrades loaded? Would you say that they get in fairly quickly, where when the update is made available to you, are you able to get it loaded in a test environment, test it, and have it loaded within 7 to 10 days, or does it tend to kind of work its way into a pile and it gets tended to when it gets tended to?
Russ, I could tell you at New England Tech, we really make a point to get it loaded as soon as possible so that we can test it, because some financial aid processes are dependent on the new update coming out. So we really make a point to be heard and get that loaded quickly.
People are also sending in answers via chat. That's great. you can continue to do that throughout the presentation as well. Just to share some of these answers, the range on this is from fairly quickly to slow response on our end and to whenever they can fit us in. And they're not, IT is not always eligible to participate in the test. So, one thing that we would definitely try to encourage is to, find out, why that is. I mean, sometimes you have a very small school with a very small IT staff that's generally stretched thin, between staff, students, faculty. They can become overwhelmed trying to serve everyone. But making sure that the software is not only up to date, but doing the most it can for the institution really will, it'll maximize the investment the institution's made on it, and really also help all the constituents on campus on the back end, especially students, and it can help faculty too, because, if students aren't happy, they'll share with the faculty, and then the faculty will ask questions, and everybody will ask what's going on, and then the answer will come back to be, we're trying to work with IT, but, they seem, fairly overwhelmed. So trying to manage all those things on campus and deciding, which staff that, may need increases or just additional help at peak times, is always, it's a tough balance in this day and age, with, everyone trying to, maintain a trim budget. But there are certain areas, where the campus, if they make sure that it's robust, will add a lot of benefit on the back end. And so we're also seeing that most updates can get loaded fairly quickly, especially, if testing goes smoothly. Thank you all for your answers. One last question: do you act usually as a beta tester? When new releases come out, you load them really quickly, even though they may have bugs, and do you work with the software companies to, make bugs known and work through those? Many times there'll be a release, like you'll see an 8.1, and then you'll see 8.1A, because the A release, worked out all the glitches that kind of popped up from the original release. Do we have any beta testers out there? I mean, I know a lot of people usually like to wait and hear that there are no issues, or wait for that secondary release to clear any issues. Do we have any beta testers who like to find issues out there? Anyone? No? Okay. Seeing a lot of we wait on the chat. That's usually me too, but I know some people really enjoy the the beta environment and and finding the errors and working those things out. Thank you. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate automation on your campus? The fact that it would be embraced on your campus. Do you find that many things are still done manually, or because this is the way we've always done it, or do you feel like your campus is really embracing automation and trying to use software to automate many processes as possible to help move operations forward? Not only in financial aid, but you see it embraced in other areas as well. Does anyone feel like the campus does a good job at automation and becoming more technical, or do we feel like your campuses really need a lot of work in that area? Seeing some chats come through that say automation is highly encouraged, and this person feels like their institution does a good job to utilize, they're a banner institution to utilize banner offerings. Another person says if they would rate it about a 6.5. Working on automated, but it sounds like at 6.5 you're headed in the right direction, so that's great. For the most part, automation's embraced. And then some, another person says a little of both. Some things are still done manually, so maybe that's about a 5. we still need to move some things forward where the system could do more, not only for financial aid, but potentially for other areas. Okay? And for those using a single source system, like PowerFades, for example, do you have information routinely fed into it from other key areas such as admissions or registrar, student accounts, etc.? The reason why I ask this is that the single source systems can be, generally, and just using PowerFades for example, PowerFades is an excellent financial aid tool. However, if you don't have information fed into it from the other areas, or if that information is hard to access, it can limit PowerFades' effectiveness because you're just not getting that information from other key areas loaded into it. For example, if you don't have a feed coming from registration, you can't see how many credits they're registered for in the term, or GPA, credits earned, things like that. So it's very hard to verify, enrollment, to lock enrollment for disbursements, to make sure they're meeting SAP. For admissions, just to make sure that they're admitted before you start awarding the new student population that's coming in for the upcoming year, et cetera. So having information either fed into it, where you can really automate a lot of the reports and some of the other processes in it is important. Seeing some chat come through where it says, at a prior school where I used PowerFades, the information did not filter down as well. So, maybe you felt some of those pains. And I've used PowerFades at a number of schools and been on both sides of the aisle, where we got the information in PowerFades or where we didn't. So, and it's, I think it's much easier, obviously, to make sure the information's at your tips, to make sure that you can, run reports and then execute processes, knowing that you have good information, updated information, where you can, make informed decisions. And you can send this last question through via chat, or if you'd like to verbalize it. How many believe that you're getting the most right now out of your current software package? Or do you feel that there are areas where you could really improve it to, to make sure that you're maximizing it? Okay, and we have a chat that's come through that says, I know for a fact we're not getting the most out of the system as of yet. We are aware of this, and we're slowly working towards more. If you could share one area where you really feel like you're short, either by verbal or through the chat, what's one area that you feel like, if your school automated X process, would that what one process would make it easier for you to, if it was automated, that would give you a lot more autonomy in your process, free up some time, make sure that you do it right.
Joe,
okay, we've got SAP.
Are you doing a webinar right now?
Okay, we see information for definitely SAP. SAP's popped up a couple of times. Another user, looking for a net partner, underutilizing the software with applications, self-service and award letters, acceptance of aid, etc. Is coming through. And thank you for your answers. Okay, and then we have one more. Somebody has Banner automated for award letters, SAP, and for verification. So that's excellent. Okay, so now we're going to talk about some of the areas a little bit more specifically, that could potentially be automated, and then some of the benefits that can come out of streamlining the processes. Okay, so for ISO data loading folder prep, again, if you want to just ask yourselves, when was the last time that you reviewed how you load ISOs? How often are the files loaded? Okay, and you can ask yourself that for peak times and for off times. Do you load the files too often? Are they not loaded often enough? And most importantly, how much time does the file process take? I've worked with schools that have said the ISO load process takes us an hour, and we do it every day. Every day it takes us an hour. So I have to account for that 1 hour being gone out of my schedule every day. And they load ISOs every day regardless of the time of year. So, that was a school where we helped them look at their process and see what they were doing to try to take some time off of that, number one. But number two, work with them to modify their schedule some that, in non-peak times, they don't have to bring them in every day. They're doing it twice a week now. When cycles are slow, you want to pick up the times where, you do it on Wednesday for the Tuesday NSLDS push, for your IG files, and another day during the week to pick up any changes or corrections, especially when you have the majority of verifications done, the majority of your federal aid paid. So that can, save you time just by not doing it as often during slower parts in the calendar. So, and is there a process in place to account for potential of drop records? If you're grouping all the records together, you just want to make sure that you have a reconciliation process in place, that you're balancing the number of files that you've brought into EdConnect and or from EdConnect rather, and that you bring into the system to make sure all the files get loaded, so you have all the information back into your system. And are there ways to improve accuracy and efficiency? So let's see. We have one person who says the ISO load's actually very quick. It only takes about 5 minutes a day. And I think that's from a PowerFades user. So that process may be a little bit quicker on PowerFades. I know the person where it took a long time was a Banner school, and they did have some complex processes with the way that they had it set up to execute it. It's a little bit faster on PowerFades. It's pretty quick on EdExpress too, depending on how many files you have. But when you're loading them one by one, if it's a peak time, then it can really take a while. Does anybody have any questions or anything they'd like to add regarding the ISO load process, either verbal or by chat? Okay, thanks. We'll move on. Okay, grouping of student application data. Have you clearly defined your student groups? And when was the last time that you looked at your student group definitions? Especially with the verification rules drastically changing for the upcoming year, it may be a good time to revisit the student groups that you have. For entering, not selected for verifications, selected for verification, independent, dependent, and graduate student. And now this year when they're selected for verification, exactly, which, what are they selected for? V1, V2, V3, 4, and 5. So you may want to look at the groups that are assigned if you have a system that names student groups, such as Banner, to which groups, are, how are they named, and how do you select that for each student type. This will ensure that data can be segmented for reporting and executing communication plans. And this can be especially important to see how the new verification rules are affecting your institution. If you do have a system that will be able to segment out the different types of verification selections, you can see how many of your students in total are being selected. That's something fairly usual that we look at every year.
The binder you want? Yeah, the white binder. Where is it? Right here.
I apologize. Now that you'll be able to look at and see, in which of the verification buckets, people are falling. Okay. Okay. Our communications to students automated to run through executable job process. Missing documentation letters. How often do you run them? Do you run them every other week or more or less depending on need? Your award statements and right to cancel notifications based off of disbursement date. Again, do you based on your institution, if we could just get a quick, it's hard to do show of hands on a webinar, but if we could get just a quick verbal or chat to say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel that these processes are automated on your campus?
For us at New England Tech, not as much as we should. This is something I really want to expand this year.
The chats are coming through with a lot of favorable answers. Most people who have answered have these processes automated. So getting 9s, yes, pretty much across the board. Someone said 5.5, so you can see where there's some work in that area. Someone from a Banner school says these processes run very well in Banner, and they were easy to automate, so that these processes for them are running well. While the system, another person who says 7, another person who says we run the communications, they're not automated, so they're executing the jobs. That's from a PowerPage user. So while in PowerPage they can be done in batch, but they're not automated. Working on automating award letters. Yes, automated here. We run missing doc letters every time we run a tape load twice a week. Banner has a feature that it sends notifications to students to complete FAFSA. Am I familiar with this? If you could take a moment and explain further on that, if you have a moment. We have another person that says missing info letters. Sometimes we have them. Some fall through the cracks. We'd like to automate. So we could talk about that a little bit more offline if you'd like. That can just be the way that you have your group set up to make sure that everybody in the group or everybody in a certain status, for PowerPage, you're getting picked up properly. So we could do that. So thank you all for your answers. I'm just going to take a moment. I'm going to mute the phones. Really like to thank everybody for their answers. It seems like everybody is really comfortable answering in chat. So I'm going to keep the phones muted, and then we'll continue answering in chat, and I'll read the chats out to everybody. Okay, we have another person that says it's not as automated as I would like as of yet. It's still very much a manual process. Okay. Okay, we'll move on. The other person who has Banner they send applicants, they get an email one to two times weekly to do the FAFSA if they have a blank ISER requirement on RARAC, if I'm reading that properly. And that's something that also can be available through a self-service environment too. If you have it out on self-service, through self-service, you can list ISER as a missing document, and also the link to jump out to complete the FAFSA online. But that's making sure that they get an email out to do the FAFSA if they have the open requirement on RARAC is a great way to do it as well. So that's great that the students are getting timely notifications, about their missing items. How do you identify conflicting information, and how do you clear it with reject or C flags? Now, in Banner, you can pick up reject or C flag through comment codes, and you can also pick up the IRS data match through Banner for those students who are flagged as O2. But another group that's always, that's been of interest to me since I started doing the data match are those who are flagged as O5. Those who didn't use the IRS data match, but people who, this is a group that's eligible to do so. So I'd like to ask everyone, how are they reaching out to the O5 group? I know that there have been a lot of instances where it's been really slow for students to go ahead and get a tax transcript. So they'll fill it out and either the 4506 and fax it in, or they'll make the request right online, and for one reason or another, they really do have a problem getting the transcript. Maybe they've moved, from the address where they filed it, or they filled it out properly and it just doesn't seem to get to where it's going. They'll ask for it to be sent to the school, and the school it doesn't get to the school, or it doesn't get to the school in a timely manner. Especially now that we're pretty much to the end of the fall semester. If you have people hanging out there for verification, and I would say it's a fairly common practice where if you have verification documents open, people are not making that interim disbursement. They're holding all the funds until the verification is completed. So now you have a situation where, because we're at the end of the term, we have undisbursed aid. We're really trying to pull in anyone that we have left to get those disbursements on the student's account, to make sure that the student account gets cleared, the student can move on to the spring semester, with a clear balance, and also to make sure that those disbursements for spring now can happen early, help improve receivable, and it can also help the student too, because if they'll have a true remaining balance, still need to work out, how they're going to pay that. And I know those policies can vary from institution to institution, where some institutions have a very hard line on balances where they won't let a student register, and others can be, somewhat in the middle, but others, very soft. So, we want to make sure that the conflicting information gets, or missing information gets sent in as soon as possible to go ahead and clear it. So let's see, we have some answers too for this. We use about 30 batch posting to handle this piece, to load the correct requirement into RARAC. This is for a Banner school, which is, RARAC is the document tracking screen. And they said, let's see, they're using batch posting through RAWPost to load the correct requirement and satisfying it if it was an O2. And in these cases, if you can also just answer if you load based on the comment code, if you're loading a missing item into RARAC. So when you send your missing item out, you can do that in PowerFade too, where it'll load right into document tracking if they have a certain comment code. Just like if they're selected for verification, your verification documents will populate. If they were flagged for citizenship, that you're loading proper citizenship documents into your document tracking area, whether it's PowerFade or DataTel, EdExpress, etc., whatever you're using. So let's see, we have a person who commented on 05. For 05, we request the tax transcript, but try to speed it up Then we ask them to go back and make the correction and use the data match. If we receive the correction, the corrected ISER is 02, they'll waive the transcript requirement. Another person says students are notified through WARAC, and then they get a missing information letter. Once any student needs to be verified, they get an email or paper letter if no email is set up for the student. So, like, people are taking a number of different paths to go ahead and reach out to the student and make sure that they are securing not only missing documents but conflicting information or information that they'll need to collect based on any reject or C flags. Okay. COD processing and reconciliation. How do you clear loan exceptions? How do you send loan disbursement notifications to the student, letting them know that they have 14 days, the right to cancel notification? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your DL reconciliation process? Do you use DL tools? Do you have another process that's in-house? I know if we have DataTel users out there that you can just load the SAS file right into DataTel, and it will give you the exceptions that are out of bounds. And lastly, what have you done to further automate and or streamline your loan process? So if you could take a moment, if anybody would like to send in a message about these items. Okay, we have a person that uses power fades with GenzaBar EX. They say reconciliation is at best probably a 4 out of 10. And to the person who says that, would we, just a question out to you, are you also using DL tools with that? And if you feel it's a 4 out of 10, if you're not using DL tools, that might be something you'd like to try to improve your process. We have another person that says this could be much better, this process. We have another person that says it's handled by loan operation and Bursar, which is probably a little bit of a larger institution, where it's handled within the financial aid office, but there's enough staff there where, between the loan and the Bursar and finance, the processes really aren't handled, within, your processing areas. Someone uses your DL tools and Banner, they give it a 9. Personally, I'm working with a school out in Ohio where we use EdExpress. They're a very small school, so we use EdExpress, and we use DL tools with that, and it works very well. I would rate it a 10 just because I know I'm capturing everybody. I know we have all the exceptions, and then we have all the match records. And that's basically the whole point of reconciliation. Obviously, we want to account for everybody. We want to make sure, what we've processed in COD has come through our software system, has also made it onto the student account. So if you can reconcile your software system with COD and then with the student accounts, and you're matching every month, and for those records that don't match, you can account for them, and you know why they haven't posted, then I would give that a 10. We have another person that says DL Recon is a 9. We monitor it daily. I haven't really looked into automating it because our current system works. We have an individual who communicates with us daily and monitors the cash management. That's great. Let's see. The biggest problem from our PowerFades user who gave it a 4 out of 10, the dates is the part that's driving us crazy, but it's slowly getting there. So you want to make sure that the dates that you've posted to the student account match the date that it's dispersed in COD. And there are ways to make that match if you process the loan on a certain day, or if you if you have a bad date, you can go into COD, or you should be able to use your software system to send out an updated date. Let's just say, for example, you have a canned disbursement date. I'll just give you an example from the Ed Express because it's what I'm using now. We have disbursement date for the term. The fall term, it was 9/12. Well, if we do a disbursement in October, we don't want that September date to go out. We want the October date because that's the day that we're disbursing. We have the ability to modify that, send it back through Ed Express, and it comes back to COD, and it does update the date. You can also do it right on COD too for an individual loan if you need to adjust somebody individually. You just want to make sure that you're loading back the web response files to make sure that the dates will line up in the software system as well as COD, and that will match to your system to make sure that you're using the right disbursement date. Okay. Would anybody else like to rate their reconciliation time? Okay. I know that we're starting to creep up on the hour, so we'll wrap this up within the next few minutes. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Regarding budgeting groups, make sure that you've segmented your budgeting groups, and are you assigning the budget groups in batch, or are they manually assigned? This can be a time saver if you're loading in the cost of it for every student. When you load that ICER, make sure you have a way to load in a proper budget, and look at the way that you're segmenting your budgeting groups on campus, off campus, commuter, graduate, etc., to make sure that when they come in, that you can you have ways to identify who these students are, and batch post the correct budgets to the files. Okay. Okay. Automated packaging. If your system has the ability, or you're using this. Now, this is where, again, we'll come back where we'll say, this will take a lot of work. It'll take a lot of work to automate your packaging. However, the benefits on the back end will be tremendous. When you go to award, it will save you time. It will also improve accuracy and equity to students. So students that have the same profile will get the same award. And then if you come to certain points of the year where you start to gap these students because of budgetary concerns, again, that can still be applied equitably. Okay? If you use it, to what extent? For federal funds only, for institutional funds? Do you use it to help leverage? And if not, why not? Is it a lack of resources? Is it a shortage of expertise on campus with implementing formulas, or other? And this is something that our company does very well. If you have the ability to automate packaging within your system, but you don't have the time or expertise to do it, this is something where we can come in and we can help set this up for you and run it, and and this can drastically speed the time where you get awards out to your freshmen and or returning populations. Especially for as Banner, DataTel, and PowerFades, where this can really work for you. Return to Title IV processing. Does your software system have built-in R2T4 processing, such as Banner or DataTel? And if so, are you using it? How are you capturing that list of withdrawn students? Do you have the control to run withdrawal reports, or do you depend on receiving data from other departments? If you have an all-in-one system, you may be able to go ahead and get permission from the registrar. If they can build you a report of withdrawals, then you can run it, on your own timeline, which would probably be every other week or so, unless you're at a type of institution where you see a lot of withdrawals come through. With 45 days to process the return to Title IV, running it every couple of weeks, make sure that you can capture, everyone who's withdrawn and still have enough time to process and complete the return of funds within the 45 days. Another thing you want to think about with R2T4 is that, if you have a good relationship with the registrar, generally that they'll work with the academic dean and faculty to make sure that withdrawals are being reported on time. One piece that can leave you out of compliance through really no fault of your own is, are those late, withdrawal notifications where somebody left 2 months ago, but nobody said anything to anybody, and you have a withdrawal date that's out of that's beyond the 45 days, and that they do need to go through the return of Title IV process. So you want to look at your own process, but you also want to look at how the campus itself manages notifications for students who are no longer attending, and make sure that everyone, from the registrar to the academic dean back to the faculty, are notifying everybody in a timely manner that, of student withdrawals. And that way you'll have enough time to execute R2T4. Okay? Okay. And lastly, some additional recommendations. Paperless, if you have the ability to scan everything in and complete your verification, by looking at documents that are loaded right into the screen. Some systems have ways of loading verification data, right back into it. Satisfactory academic progress, which we touched on a little bit. Federal work study processing. And maybe thinking about some other processes that you have recently automated that's improved your efficiency or equity, or something maybe that we haven't touched on, where you think you might be able to automate it and save yourself some time and energy down the road. And if you have that and we haven't touched on it, please contact us, and we would love to be able to help you with it. You can also contact your system user groups and see if anyone else is automating it or has attempted it, how it works for them, etc., and things like that. And that way, you can certainly make system improvements, and make your office run better. And we all know that staffing is really tight, and everything gets a little bit more difficult every year. So making sure that your system is really fine-tuned before we come into the 2012, rather the 13-14 academic year, especially with the verification changes that are coming down the pipe, could be really, really important for you to have a successful processing cycle and really cut down on those late nights where you're there 8, 9 o'clock, working through the stuff that, potentially you could spend some time automating now, getting it done up front, and, making things easier March, April, May, and June. Okay? I'm going to unmute. If anyone has any last questions, any final questions, we'd love to be able to take them now. Okay, everybody's unmuted. Are there any final questions?
Actually, I have a quick question if you guys can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Quick question. Are the PowerPoint slides going to be available for download off of the website or something, or emailed?
Yes, they are. The PowerPoint will be available on the website, along with the audio for the session. So you'd be able to view the session again. You'd be able to share it with colleagues, and we'll have this, the whole presentation will be available out to you shortly.
Oh,
probably
beautiful.
Maybe by the end of the week. I just would have to check back and see how quickly it'll be available online. We also have a number of other webinars that we've completed in our series that are already available online.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is Anna. I have a question for the group. Just I'd like to hear from other people's experiences about, for instance, setting up self-help for students or emailing them missing information letters, or how much have your students embraced new kind of processes like that are online versus paper? Are they Are they jumping on board, or do you find it kind of difficult to roll out a new process like this?
Hi, this is Sherilyn. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, here at Nova, most of our students prefer the email format, which is the way they get their communication. So email is the primary means of communication here, and the students actually, I think, are more receptive to it. There are some students, some of our adult learners who may not necessarily are quick to adapt, but I find with our younger students, in particular, I work in financial aid at the medical school, they're on their phones or iPads all the time. So that's their primary means of communication, and, when they sit in your office, they can actually show you the email. Well, I got this email, what do I need to do? So that's been my experience.
Yeah, that's similar to mine, and also our admissions office is getting into using Twitter more often. We have a Facebook page on financial aid, so I'm finding that too. There's a good population, and generally it is younger students who are much more savvy than I am about using the online systems, and they're more comfortable with it. So thanks for that. So any other questions from anyone before we wrap up?
Okay, on behalf of Anna, I would like to thank everyone very much for attending today and taking the time to join us. We wish you all a very happy and healthy holiday season and New Year. And we would like to invite you to view our website for future webinar topics. For those who are on Banner, we do have a couple of sessions for New Year Roll. If you're going through your New Year Roll, we've already conducted webinars, Part 1 and Part 2 for New Year Roll. They're all already available on the site with full audio, so you can view those on your own time. Those are already out there. If you have a topic that you'd like covered, please email me, and we would love to work on developing any topics that you find relevant. Again, we have a number of webinars that we've already completed that are out on our site for viewing anytime you like. That will also include this session. It will be posted again online as soon as possible. So we'd like to thank you all for coming with us, for joining us today. And again, have a very happy holiday season.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Take care, though. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to you too. Take care.